it's very important to focus on your own personal brand. And whether it's for finding the new job or starting your own business, whatever it may be, it's very, very important.
Hello, and welcome back to Off to the Valley, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs shaping industries across the globe. I'm your host, Prateek Panda, and today we are joined by Nida Ateeq, founder and CMO of Anagar Media, a marketing agency that helps B2B companies go from brand confusion to pipeline clarity. An engineer turned marketer, Nida moved from India to Canada and quickly built a reputation for pairing data with storytelling. Strategy and creativity comes to her naturally, and she's been helping out a lot of B2B companies with the same. She's not afraid to challenge the status quo, especially in B2B marketing, and we'll get to learn a lot from her today. Nida, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to Off to the Valley.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your move to Canada. You've been here not too long. What got you to Canada?
It's been 3 years now. So, what got me to Canada was when back home in India, I was working for the North American market. And partly what happened was during the pandemic, I wanted to move to more Indian consumer based marketing role. And time and again, I was like pushed back. And they were like, oh, you don't have any experience here because you've been working with American clients, European clients. And essentially, that would cause, even though I was in Indian companies, I was working for those. And so that got me thinking. And after like a lot of discussion in terms of opportunity and what's going on, I realized that this could be and Canada wasn't like the it country that I wanted to come to. There were a couple of options, but then I got invited through a PNP program where they invite skill set based on certain skill sets. The provinces in Canada invite you if you put in your application, and I got invited through Ontario, and I was like, okay, yeah, this sounds like a good option. Some of the companies I would want to work for are based out of Canada. It looks like a good career move, and so that's what got me moving.
Awesome. And you launched Anagar Media within sort of a year of moving to Canada. What were, this might be a difficult thing to answer, but what were maybe the first three things you did to get your business off the ground?
I think because I was a new business owner, I've seen business firsthand in India because my dad is one. And for me, it was like, oh my God, there's a lot of paperwork. There's going to be a lot of financial things involved. How am I going to do this? And I got a push through some because I was working at an agency, and some of my clients over there were like, I was trying to move out of an agency role surprisingly and get into a more corporate role. I was like, this is too much to handle. It's good, it's great, but it's like taking a lot of my personal time off. And so what happened was during this whole process, some of my clients at that agency were like, oh, if you start something of your own, we would love to follow. And seeing my dad being an entrepreneur and a salesperson right from the start of, when I was growing up, I've seen him build businesses back home in India though. I sort of had the urge to try something of my own. So I had a conversation with him, and I wanted to know, like, is it a easy journey or not? And that got me thinking. And since there was a push from some of my clients who would join me, I thought, okay, let's register this. And the three things which I thought would be the most difficult things to do in to start a business were the most easiest in Canada. You can register your business, open a bank account, and start off with the basics, like just your website, within a day or two.
That's
And
awesome.
there are agencies here which help you through that whole process. Once you get, there is of course nuances to everything, and you need to understand stuff, but it wasn't a whole lot to build off of. And those are the first three things I did. I registered, I opened my bank account, and the third thing I did was build my web, because I have a marketing experience. Building the website was easier, so I had my website running within 2 or 3 days, and it was off the ground.
That's awesome. So you've lined those three things up very well for an obvious fourth, which is customers.
Yeah.
So you did mention a little bit that some of your previous clients mentioned that if you were to start something of your own, they would come work with you. So I guess that was, sort of soften the process a little bit of,
Hmm.
launching. But for a lot of the other listeners who are, starting new businesses or thinking of starting new businesses, do you have any tips on how they can go about and acquire their first few customers?
Yeah, especially because you're starting small as a business and you're sometimes a solopreneur first and then you get to hire people. I don't think you have a huge budget to spend on yourself from a marketing or a sales perspective to get there. And to be fairly honest, my first 2 years were just referrals and word of mouth. So if someone worked with me and they really liked it, they referred me to someone else, and that's how it worked. It's still to the date that is what's been happening. Of course, I've partnered up with one of my other counterparts in the US who runs her own marketing agency in the US, and we kind of collaborate through a partnership approach on working on different things. But initially it's all been referral. So I personally think, as a new entrepreneur, focus on your personal brand, because a lot of people reached out to me when I announced I'm doing that on LinkedIn. They were like, "Oh, I didn't know you started something of your own, would love to collaborate with you." So while that was something I was building even before I wanted to do my own business, if you may call it, it's very important to focus on your own personal brand. And whether it's for finding the new job or starting your own business, whatever it may be, it's very, very important. So I would focus there to build a very strong existing referral base or a partnership base. See who within your network, especially LinkedIn, who can help you do these things, and focus on partnering there and getting through that, rather than doing PPC campaigns or cold outreaches, because those tend to not work for you. I'm not saying they don't work at all, they might, but they won't work immediately, right? Because you're starting small, you have to create a brand name for yourself, and there's a lot of work behind that. So this would be my go-to tip.
Got it. And you mentioned a few things where I want to touch upon a little bit, but I'll get to that in a minute. I want to know from you, we were talking a little bit about building those relationships, you know, creating a touch point in your existing network and see who can help you right away. What are some challenges that you faced in building a new professional network in a new country from scratch? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so for me, initially, when I had come over here for 6 months, it was just me, not even like from a professional network, even on a personal network. I didn't have relatives here, or essentially very important friends. Most of my friends are in the States. So it was a little difficult just getting along with people and making friends, and even eventually the professional network. That was a big challenge. What really helped me was communities. So what I earlier on very immediately discovered is some of these professional communities and some of these not so professional communities for like personal growth and stuff like that really helped. So I met a lot of founders, I met a lot of, which also gave me like initial confidence in opening my business, because I had been part of those communities and I had seen some people already doing that. So it was easy to reach out to those people. So I would definitely encourage people to do that. I'm part of Pavilion, I'm part of Monday Girl, I'm part of Elevate. Like, these are those professional communities where I could go reach out to different people and speak to based on what their experiences have been like, and learn off of that. And these communities, just to give a quick tip too, have helped me find potential clients as well. So
That's
I would
awesome.
definitely say that this is the first approach you should do anytime you're trying, if you're moving to a new country. See where these things can help you.
Awesome. And in your experience, now that you've launched a business in Canada, what are some common misconceptions about starting a business in Canada that in the process maybe you realized those were misconceptions?
uh, Initially, like I mentioned, the point one was like, oh, the registration is going to be a big deal like in India. It wasn't. It was pretty simple and straightforward once you have all of your details in place. So for me, that was very easy. In fact, I didn't have a name, and the naming process was like me talking to the person helping me register, and the lawyer was like, what do you want to name it? And I'm like, I don't know. And then he's like, okay, let's talk about it. And we came up with this name like in 15 minutes of just him asking me a few questions. I'm like, yeah, let's go with that. So ideally speaking, there's a lot of help out there. The other misconception for me was, it's a new country, so I will not understand the financial aspects of it, or I'll have to learn everything from scratch. But very easily early on I realized that Canadian government provides a lot of help for startups, a lot of help for immigrant founders and entrepreneurs, and it's like almostly free out there for you to use and utilize. And just doing a little bit of research of doing that and figuring out stuff was like hugely beneficial. Some of the most unexpected help I've got is from just opening a bank account and having a personal account advisor on it. I did not know a lot of things that I was doing wrong, and he was able to correct me and from a personal and a professional perspective get things right. So that was hugely, a misconception that, oh, I might have to learn all of that. The other misconception I had was, okay, so I've got these maybe 3 or 4 clients easily, but for me to grow, I have to put that money back in and spend it to get other clients. And I think that was wrong. I did spend a little bit initially for a month just running some PPC campaigns, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, doing cold outreaches. But that didn't work for me. I didn't get a single client. And just based off my experience speaking with other agency holders who've been doing it for years now, they were like, oh, I would suggest reach out within your network. And I did realize a lot of people reaching out within these communities kind of gave me a different aspect to how things work in North America, especially where it's word of mouth. People tend to trust you more because you're building that credibility through referrals, through whatever it may be. And so I think that is hugely important, and being present at the right place at the right time. I didn't focus so much on, I didn't take it seriously, to be honest, to go for any kind of events or summits, especially like those tech ones. I'm like, I'm a marketing agency, that I don't know how that's going to help. But trust me, those like led to potential clients, me having active conversations with them. So you have to be at the right place at the right time. So a completely different way of marketing, say in India, changed my perspective of how it is supposed to be over here. It's completely different.
That's awesome. That's a lot of great advice there. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's switch into another area of expertise for you, which is B2B growth, pipeline generation, B2B marketing. AI is the buzzword.
Mm.
Obviously, there's a ton of tools out there. As an agency owner working with multiple B2B companies, do you have like a toolkit that you think is very useful for you? Are there any AI tools that you find very useful?
Yeah, so I still see a lot of clients being hesitant if you use AI, right? But for us, recently we've been building some AI agents and some custom GPTs, which have done really well. And we've been using that to automate a lot of stuff we have on our end, which we spend a lot of time on. So, in terms of a tool stack, I did do another webinar recently with Graphy where I shared my whole tech tool stack that I'm using, and some of like 60% I would say are AI tools that I use. Chat GPT, Claude is like my go-to, but there are some of the tools which I've been using recently which have been helpful too is Blaze AI, use it for like a couple of like video editing, creatives, fast generation of stuff. Canva's been doing a really great job with AI. It's still learning, but Canva with Chat GPT, you can use Canva within Chat GPT. That has helped solve a lot of quick fixes, if you will, for us. Of course, if you need a branded video and we want to go all out, we won't use Canva yet, or for a full-fledged, important project. But like for quick fixes, quick wins, those have been really essential for us. I have been using a lot of Phantom AI, which is, I feel, it's been like an assistant, like taking all the notes, getting, all the tasks done for me in a process. I don't have to think much after each meeting. Everything is recorded, everything is updated, so that's great. And recently we have been exploring, possibly this week, use of motion. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. That's like a complete tool which we have been trying to research on a trial basis right now with our team, which can do like task generations automatically, manage efforts, manage multiple calendars, and record meetings, all of that in one place, and then assign tasks for your team. So we've been finding that to be really helpful for us as well. So that's some of those important stacks which I have. But of course, there are like 10 to 15 different tools, which I would love to share with your audience too, as a checklist, which we have been using for the past year and a half.
Awesome, that's great. So tell me a little bit more about the, let's get into like the branding part of things, right?
Mhm.
If you're a small B2B, early stage company, what are some things from a marketing perspective that you can do to be more visible or to have better visibility compared to a larger competitor?
Like I said, because you're starting small, your company does not have a brand face, so you are the brand
Mhm.
right now. So focusing on your personal brand is very essential. So pick a niche. I don't ever suggest going all out on all media platforms and creating a brand, whether it's a blog or you want to do LinkedIn or Instagram. Like pick one for where your audience sits and generate a lot of thought leadership material, which could be essentially very helpful for your target audience. So now, say I have like 19,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. Not everyone is my target audience. I need to identify first what my target audience is and then generate content for that so that people can reach out and think of me as someone they would work with if they need some kind of help on marketing. So that is my first and most important thing I would concentrate on. Two would be always actively not. So I see this as a mistake which I've done too, which I shared. Do not think of your network as, oh, I'll just put a LinkedIn post out there and yeah, someone might, they might not. So use that network and do your own research and build like a list who you can reach out to, who would love to work with you. So this could be old bosses, it could be previous company employees moving into a new company, could be previous clients, right, who possibly were not happy with what the work was happening previously, but now you know what the issue is and you've identified how you can solve for it, so you can reach out to that network. And we often tend to mistake that we cannot do that. We go cold outreaches, we go with PPC campaigns, we go with the emailing, cold emails here and there and thinking this is going to work. But I think the network which you have currently is very essential for you to reach out to. The other thing is play around with a bunch of tools. I personally have found Apollo. I know they've been flagged by LinkedIn, but in the past, Apollo.io has been very helpful for me, and Clay.ai. These two tools have been really, really good for me in figuring out, once I've figured out what my target audience looks like, I can build out lists and reach out. So that is being a good go to now, especially now that I'm moving a little, I want to grow a little more, I'm moving away from referrals. So think about that. Two would be, if you're starting off small, and this is something I've done, like I mentioned, I have partnered with someone. If you are in a certain region and you can partner with someone else to help you grow, there are a lot of agencies out there who like to white label stuff. So they hire other agencies to help out smaller agencies. Think about potentially those relationships and partnerships too, because you're starting off small. So to build a testimonial, a case study, or to build that trusted brand is not easy. People will not come to you easily and say, oh yeah, go for it, I want to work with you. So think about having those kind of collaborations as well, because that will create like a pathway for you in terms of what work you've done. You can build off of that a good customer base from that. So that would be my fourth, I guess, advice. And the fifth is community and events. And not everywhere, but I have a rule like every quarter I need to attend like four major events, which is going to help me grow my career or my business in a certain way. And I make like active choices of what that would be like. And I choose and plan way ahead each quarter on what I would go to. So think about it and see where your audience sits and where you think you should be actively participating.
Do you set some goals for yourself for these events also before you go to them? Is
Yes.
there something you have in mind already?
Yes, every time I go to this event, it's not necessarily, oh, I'm going to find three clients or four clients here, but like how many people I personally engage with. Initially, it used to be like, oh, I met 100 people. Am I going to talk to all 100? No. You have to have that conversation over there. And then I always make a list on my phone because you don't carry your laptop there. But you make a list, especially on LinkedIn, right? A small note, nice meeting you there. We had a conversation on this, would like to take up further conversation. And I drop in a message, and that's my follow up notification, if you will. And I actively look for at least 5 to 6 people who where I've made a good connection, and where it does not have to be like, oh, I'm going to build a business with them or they're going to give me any business, but where I'm seeing potentially some kind of give and take between us. And sometimes it's you just giving something and not thinking about receiving something. So that's a big no no for a lot of people. They're like, oh, but I spoke to him and he hasn't really responded, or I gave him like a checklist. He Sometimes things come around after months. Like, I'll give you an example. I met someone at an event. Now it's called the Web Summit, it's called Collision in Toronto, and they reached out to me. I think this happened in September or August or September last year. No, if I'm not wrong, May or June last year. And they reached out to me this year, last month. And they're like, hey, do you remember me? I know we are connected on LinkedIn, but you spoke about your agency, you spoke about all of these great things. I've moved into a new role. I'm looking for someone who can help me with growth marketing on the B2B side. Let's talk. And so, if you can imagine, the sales cycle here is more than a year, but it's just creating that trust factor, that connection with that person, and they'll remember you. So don't think about immediately causing an impact, but also think about what you can share and how you can help that person without gaining something in return. And I think that makes a huge difference. So my goal always is meaningful active engagement at these events with at least 5 to 6 different people, and what I can help them with or provide help on.
Yeah, I think that example was really great. It reminded me last year during my experience, we hosted this sort of self hosted, owned event. It was a small dinner
Hmm.
event with a lot of C level folks. And we had a good dinner event, did a bunch of follow ups for a long time. Nothing came out of it. And it was one of the first ones that we did. So there was a lot of discussion on, is this even valuable or not? Do we get any ROI on it or not? We recently just closed a customer from that event, but it took 8 months for them to get back, and then it closed within 30 days, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's very similar to the sort of example you shared, that we are at a time where you have to also look at measuring your efforts over a longer period of time so
Yes.
that you have a better understanding of whether a channel works or not, right?
Hmm.
So looking at a very short interval might make you think, oh, this tactic does not work for me or this channel does not work for me. But if you
Yes.
broaden your horizon a little bit or the timeline, you would start realizing that, okay, maybe there is something in it, it just works slower.
Yes, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about community as well being an important piece of the whole puzzle. Any words of advice on how B2B founders can build a unique community for their brands or around their brands?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, be actively participating in places where you would like to put your energy on, where your audience is sitting. For me, it's going and looking out and researching and figuring out what those communities are. Trust me, I've been part of communities where I was like, oh my God, there's nothing I'm getting in return, and this was not a good choice. But there are communities which I've been part, like Pavilion, I've been part of it since I've come to Canada, essentially, and it's been my go to community for everything. So, figuring out what works best for you is very important. Again, in a community, instead of thinking about what you're going to receive, if you think about what you can give and help people with, it's unexpected. You'll receive help when you won't think you need help on certain things, and people will come and actively make the choice on helping you out. So always think about what you can give and how you can help others. And of course, don't feel shy in seeking help out there too. So I shamelessly post on that community if I need any kind of help. I'm comfortable doing that now, having been there for quite some time. It's a lot of trial and error on figuring out which one works for me and which doesn't. Now I can confidently tell you that yes, Pavilion is my go-to community. I gain a lot of insights there. I can reach out for anything under the son and will be like, okay, I need help with finance. Who is your CPA? Or I need help with someone who can walk me through and understand if my go to market strategy is good or not. And people will come and do that, mentor you and help you out there. So I think it's a lot of trial and error, but always go with, can I help too? Because many of them are just selflessly doing it out of no monetary gain or no personal gain as such from that whole relationship. And so if you tend to do that as well, you'll get something in return.
Got it. One of the other things you touched upon was more on the personal brand side, especially if you're a founder of a smallish business.
Mhm.
And small could mean different things. In particular industries, even a Series B company is a small company.
Mhm.
So it could mean whatever it means to you. But you did mention that in those stages, as a founder, you are the brand, right? And the
Yeah.
company isn't as recognizable at that point. And a lot of founders that I've spoken to around this kind of understand it, but also think, I don't have the time to
Mm.
be active on social or find a channel and do all these things, right? So, to those people, what kind of advice would you give to help them start focusing on building that personal brand along with focusing on their business?
Yeah, so to those people, like for example, if you look at Elon Musk too, he does not do a whole lot of marketing. Marketing happens through his brand. He's a big guy with big companies. So like for small, big, medium, whatever it may be, people buy from people. People don't buy from companies. That's a thought process you need to establish right from the beginning. So if they trust you, they will buy something. And so gone are the days where you're like, oh my God, I'm so busy, I can't get stuff done. I'll share a little secret. For me, I schedule posts out on LinkedIn because that's my go to network and social media where I focus on 2 months in advance. So I have every other month 2 to 3 hours dedicated on a Friday, sometimes four, to just do that. Just what figuring out through analytics what is my audience responding on, where are they actively, which topics are they interested in, and that takes a it does not take a whole lot of effort if you have the right tools in place, and LinkedIn has some of those in place. You can use different analytic tools to do that, but once you've figured that out and you've cracked that, and that comes only from trial and error initially. And also, what are you most interested in talking about? What is your passion, and what do you think your audience would respond to, and why would you be posting about a certain topic? Because don't think about it, oh, I made 2 LinkedIn posts and I haven't got any clients yet. But it's about creating that brand, like we said, over the years. I started back in 2016, 2017. I used to not get a whole, like, maybe one or two posts got viral in those years, but only up till like last year or the year before that did I see actively people participating and saying something on my post and leaving something valuable in the comment section. So I would say you have to be consistent. You have to plan ahead, like I said. So think about how you can. Everyone's busy, but you have to build your personal brand. Some of those secrets are like schedule those posts out well in advance. And three, always actively keep looking at analytics and like what is trending, and don't always go with trending topics too, but also touch upon what would be valuable to your audience, right? So if you're creating value, you will get a good response. It might not happen immediately, but it's very important. It's all about time management and what can you automate.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with that. I think if you are posting something that's valuable as well as you are authentic in the process, you will create more genuine connections that last longer. I should probably go back and correct the way I had asked the question because a lot of people think that way. How do I spend time on my personal brand alongside running the business? But they are the same thing. So
Yeah.
they are not the personal brand, even though the word says personal, it is a business growth strategy as well.
Yeah, and I'm not like posting a lot. Just to give you an example of from my LinkedIn company page, I sometimes just repost my own posts from that page. So don't think, oh, I'm gonna have to talk about 10 different things for these different pages I manage. Think about repurposing content too. If sometimes I just do a screenshot of my LinkedIn post and post it on Instagram, and I'm like, here it is. I don't have time, but I'm just going to repurpose it some way. If I'm doing like a webinar on something like this, some kind of a podcast, if someone's sharing clips, I just go post, tag the people on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done, and use that for the next month for promotion. So think about what you can repurpose and what you can automate. You will save a lot of time. There are so many tools now in place to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're a marketer, I'm a marketer. And I think gone are the days when people cared about what you posted from a company page or a company account.
Yes.
It's all about other people today. And I would almost go ahead and say this, that apart from the founders themselves, it's also important that you encourage key leadership as
Mhm.
well as other folks on your team to also be more visible, and they're all spokespeople for the company as well. And the more you equip everyone to be able to talk properly about themselves, their companies, their role, or what they do on a day-to-day basis, all of that is helpful in building a good brand.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, Nida, as we get to the end of this, I want to do a very quick fire wrap up with you. So I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. What's one marketing tool you can't live without?
Right now, Chat GPT, use it to bounce off ideas. So with my Chat GPT, I almost treat him as another clone of a person, if you will. So I'll say, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, and what do you think about it? And now it's trained enough to come back to me with the answer saying, oh, I don't think that's a good idea, or I think you should go for this. And then I'm sometimes when I'm doing something in marketing and I'm like split between, should I go with this or that, or what do you think would be a better strategy? And it's been a good, I think, a second opinion, a person who listens. For me, it sounds weird, but that's my go-to to automate a lot of things, to help with decisions. It's just easier that way.
That's awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've received since you moved to Canada?
I think a lot of Canadians help me understand how important it is to have a network. In India, we do have networks, we have communities, and it's probably your own, where you're living, your school, your college. I don't think we focus so much on a professional community outside of where you're working. At least that's what has been my experience of working there for about 10 years. So for me, it has been like the best advice what I got was put yourself out there and start, actively participating. I used to not do that. So I think that has been one of the best advices I've got.
That's great advice. One book or podcast that you'd recommend to aspiring entrepreneurs who are listening to this?
Ooh, so many books. I'm actually doing a book series every Monday on LinkedIn. If for entrepreneurs, if I have to advise, let me think. It's not a book which is a business book, if you will, but I don't know, a lot of what has really helped me in life and to follow a process. I think Ikigai, the Japanese way of living, I think it just helps break down very complex things into simple ways of living. That has been essentially a very good book. I read it all the time and I go to it like time and again, and just it's my comfort book.
That's a
I
great
Anytime
recommendation.
I'm anxious, I just read that. So I think that's my go-to. The other book, I think one of my people who I spoke at a pavilion dinner, it was a women's dinner, she recommended this book called The Generations. It's not business book, if you will. It is a book though which speaks about how history repeats itself and
Mm.
creates a pattern. There was a plague hundred of years ago and there was COVID now. So it draws parallel there and it
Mm.
helps you time manage and understand like a process on what that over the years what that looks like industrialization, new discoveries, etc. So I love that book as well. So I that's my go-to book too. Every time I want to read something again, I would definitely recommend that. And then there's another one called, I'm forgetting the name, but I'll get to it. If I do, I will
Sure.
definitely get.
Sounds good. The other way to know about all of this is to follow you on LinkedIn,
Okay, thank
because
you.
every Monday you are sharing
Yes.
new book recommendations. So that's great. One last question for you. What's next for you and Anagar Media? What's the next stage of the journey looking like?
I mean, we're definitely looking to grow, and we're actively doing that in terms of course, the client base. The other thing that I'm exploring right now is we're starting a podcast of our own. It's a dedicated women generalist podcast
Awesome.
dealing, we're going to talk about any topic under the sun, like health, money, relationships, anything, right? And so we're in the process of launching that. I'm doing that with my partner Anna. She and I met through a community, surprisingly, and that's where we decided we have common interests and we want to do that. So that's another passion project that I'm looking forward to.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Nida. This was an amazing conversation. Lots of personal insights, a lot of business action oriented insights. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that wraps up today's episode. Before we sign off, I would like to thank you for your support and thanks for tuning in. If you loved today's episode, then don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Be kind, be happy, challenge the norm. I'll see you folks again for the next one.